y'all, welcome back to another Couch Conversations episode. If you missed the last one, please be sure to go check it out. I laid it all out on the table for y'all last time. So today marks 4 months since my Pop passed away, and I kind of wanted to talk about how it's been recently. So of course, people ask me, how I'm doing, which is super sweet, and it's time to talk. So getting right into it, how am I doing? Well, it's only been 4 months. I don't feel like there is a specific strong answer that I can give because this has been such a roller coaster. I don't know if I'm strong or numb. That's literally me. I don't know. I'm just confused. I don't know at this point. But there's no specific answer set for anyone. It's always back and forth because grief is an ocean and you have to ride the wave. There are days where grief comes with grace, and then there's other days where it is completely shattering. Being thrusted into this new chapter of life at a very weird time is a task that not a lot of people can handle, and it has been very rough. I will say though that the second and third month really got me because May was such a roller coaster. I was trying to get everything done. I had exams, the last month of school, but also I had just lost Pop, and so everything was still new to me in this new routine and this new chapter of life that we've entered. And so trying to adjust to that while keeping the grades up was definitely a task, and it came with severe depression, and it was very dark. So throughout this journey, I have been asked, how did I know that God was still real even in the midst of everything that I had experienced? One, I knew God was still real because he gave me support in the form of genuine friendship. And I know my friends love me. I have never doubted the way that they love me. They make sure that I never question them about that. And they always catch when I'm not my norm and when I'm different. And so, I knew in a way that I would have to say something so that they wouldn't be extremely worried when I hit my speechless phases. Ever since the day that I told my friends what was happening with Pop before he passed away and just all of his health challenges, the support was literally endless. At first I was like, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to ruin the vibe. And then once I said it, they were like, sis, we've been through that. We've had grandparents that have went through or have gone through, what your grandfather is going through and have passed away. We understand. So I was like, okay, good. Now that we've gotten over that obstacle of just saying something, okay, I get it that they understand. When Pop actually did pass away, I would wake up to messages like, do you need anything today? I love you. How are you? And then I would come to school and didn't even have to lift a finger. They just would not let me. A school day was not a school day if someone from every single class period asked me how I was doing. One day I even woke up on a school day and my best friend texted me and was like, hey, do you want Starbucks this morning? I'm literally knocked out, sleep. And then I wake up and see that as the first text of the morning. I was so shocked. I was like, you cannot tell me God does not provide. People do not have to be nice and do stuff for you, but when they do, it just shows you how much they really care for you, and that just makes people feel good. And that's how you know that friendships are solid. Let a significant life change happen and see, who your real friends are. And I say this all the time, but my biggest flex is that I found a squad worth locking in on, and this friend group that I have right now is just, it is golden, and I would not change anything about it. And then number 2, I knew that God was still real when he kept Pop here as long as he did, and God gave me the power to be able to be there to convince Pop to go to the hospital, which really saved his life and kept him here for an additional 5 months. Pop had a very major heart attack scare back in October of last year, 2022, and it was during, football season, but before homecoming, so it was right in the middle of everything going on. And it was such a weird time because I was 2 months into the school year, involved with football season, and then also worried about Pop at the same time. And so it was just a lot going on. And this particular weekend that he went to the hospital, he was very hesitant about going because home was his safe space and safe place. And so, you know, he just thought, oh, I'm not feeling good right now. But of course, it turned into being something more than that. And so the day that EMS came and got him, before they arrived, I sat on his bed with him and I held his hand with tears in my eyes, and I was watching his eyes roll, and his speech was so slurred that I could not understand a thing he was saying. And I'm just sitting there and I'm convincing Pop. I said, I need you to be here for as long as possible, at least through the holidays. And I said, that's not going to happen if you don't go to the hospital and get checked out. And I told him, I said, if you don't do this for yourself, at least do it for me. And of course, he went. Once they did the test that they were doing, you know, the hospital, and they had confirmed that it was a heart attack, like, we were so grateful that he went, because that would have been his last day. And I was not prepared at that time, and neither was I in March of this year, but you know, just God knew that I needed that extra time. And so Pop went on to spend Christmas with us, and he made it to 2023, which was so unexpected. But like I said, everything that I needed. And that's when I knew that God was still real in all of this. And of course, you always want more time, because it feels like the time that you had was never enough, but it was extended, and God honored my request, and I'll be forever grateful for that. You know, there's just moments where God literally reminds me, like, I sent this for this reason, and I sent that for that reason. And it is possible for the happiness and the heartbreak to collide together. And that's what life is. And, you know, it's a mix of good and bad. I am extremely thankful for the fact that we don't have to watch Pop suffer anymore. It was literally traumatizing beyond the smiles on this channel during that time that I had for you guys. It was really weighing down heavy on me, because behind closed doors, it was a lot to take on, and the strength that Pop had was just remarkable. Like, he had congestive heart failure, cancer, muscle deterioration, blocked arteries in his brain, and more things. And last summer, he survived COVID. I was like, God, thank you. The first week of this year, like that first week of January, he started having like really bad hallucinations. And one time he thought that his brother and my grandmother were alive, but they have already passed way before him. And so another time he thought that he was in a jungle, and another time he thought that bugs were crawling in the house. And it was just really getting scary, because he was losing his mind. And sometimes like he would hallucinate like late at night or early in the morning, like 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. And then sometimes it would be like in the middle of the day, like while I was at school. My dad, he was up all times of night just trying to help Pop calm down and get him back like mentally, because it was wearing Dad out, it was wearing Pop out, it was wearing me out. You know, it felt like every single day that Dad was telling me something new that had happened to Pop. And I was like, I seriously cannot keep up. And then when Pop started getting weaker to where all of his doctor's appointments started becoming virtual, and if there were appointments where he actually had to go in, he would be pulled in on like a non-emergency stretcher. And it just kept getting worse, because Pop couldn't call me or text me anymore, because he couldn't use his hands, because his hands started getting swollen. So in that time period, I was quickly losing Pop before I actually lost him. You know, and I missed the Pop that he was before things got worse, because I started seeing like this more like depressed side of him that was just so hard. And I would overhear him sometimes talking to Dad and, you know, express how he really felt about what he was going through. And, you know, I heard him say to Dad, you know, sometimes I just don't know what to do in my situation. And so he said a few more things, but I had to walk out and go to the bathroom, because I knew that Pop was giving up, but he just didn't want to say it. Because in my eyes, Pop has always been like one of my heroes from day one. And when he felt like he wasn't that hero that he used to be for me anymore, that's what really, you know, tore my heart apart. And then, you know, when everything started crashing down, it was literally at Pop's last doctor's appointment. And the doctor said that there was a very, 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 very high chance of sudden death. And that is exactly what happened. He just went to sleep and was gone in seconds. He literally slept away. Like, that was it. After going through all of that, on the flip side, when you think about it, he is living such a better life. He is living on the eternal side of life now, and he's in God's hands and with grandma and my uncle as well, and he can walk again, and he's freed from everything that he suffered on this earth. And he also missed grandma so much, and you know, then just them being back together, I know is a dream come true for both of them now more than ever. And also my parents and I, we don't have to worry about Pop Pop anymore. We don't constantly have to like keep an eye on him. And I feel like the longer that things kept going, the longer my anxiety lasted, and I was just exhausted. So, you know, my parents and I aren't burdened down in that aspect, but even though it drew us close as a family, it started getting to all of us in our own way, and it was just becoming too much. You know, you have people who ask me, well, how did you manage grief and grades at the same time during the fourth quarter of sophomore season? Let's just put a quarter in the meter and park for a second, because honestly, I really didn't. It looked like I did because, you know, I went to school, I put on a brave face because everyone was so used to seeing the happy side of me that it felt weird to expose the broken side of me, because I'm older than majority of my friend group. So everyone looks up to me and calls me like their lifesaver, their hero, their angel saint, whatever. Watching my grandparents and parents as leaders and pastors in ministry, downfalls and flaws weren't something that you talked about, you know? And you just serve and you do for everyone else because that's the expectation of a leader. But that system of thinking has backfired on me as a PK and in life period, because that's the one main reason why I can't ever get out of my mind. Because when you always serve but need to be served, that's when you get depleted. And y'all see where this is going. But I am trying to do better at speaking my mind, and I talked a lot about that in Couch Conversations episode 8. And I know my friends are there for me. It's just having to unlearn what I've always known for so long that does not benefit my current season and future seasons of my life. It is a mental barrier or mind game, if that makes sense. Things that remind me of my Pop Pop are birds and the clouds. I remember I was at Pop Pop's house the day that he passed away, and this was like hours later. But it was such a sunny day, and you felt the breeze and heard the birds and just felt the warmth of the sun, and I just felt Pop Pop, and it was just a lot to take in that moment. And then on the dolphin cruise that we went on in Destin during the vacation edition of Weekend Recap, I got very, very emotional when we started, when we started seeing the sunset, because it was so gorgeous, and just the way that the clouds were and the way that the sun was, it just reminded me so much of Pop Pop. I feel like places near water or sunsets, you know, the blue sky or clouds, just makes me think about him. And I've mentioned it before in a previous Weekend Recap earlier this summer, or maybe earlier this month. And I also think that it has a lot to do with the way that we sent Pop Pop off, because all of his funeral programs that were printed, we had clouds and doves and, you know, the blue sky type of scheme to it. American flags remind me of him too. They did military honors at his burial, and it was literally so beautiful. And I just remember going to school after Pop Pop's funeral and burial the following week, and I would kind of get triggered by American flags hung up in the classroom, because, you know, not that anything is wrong with the American flag, but it just reminded me of Pop Pop in that moment, and that he was gone, and just the whole reality of that coming back to my mind again. That is how life is now. It's definitely been a journey. I'd be lying if I say it hasn't been. I'm just grateful for all the support that I have, and just having the most amazing people here with me. But yeah, that's it from me. It's still all relatively new, but I am trying to do the best that I can. I love y'all so much. Happy Saturday.